أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. We were discussing verse number 135 of Surah Nisa. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله. O you who have faith, be maintainers of justice and witnesses for the sake of Allah. وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ. Even if it should be against yourselves or your parents and near relatives. إِن يَكُنْ غَنِيًّا أَوْ فَقِيرًا فَاللَّهُ أَوْلَىٰ بِهِمَا فَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا الْهَوَىٰ أَن تَعْدِلُوا. Whether it be someone rich or poor, for Allah has a greater right over them. So do not follow desires lest you should be unfair. And if you distort وَإِن تَلْوُوا أَوْ تُعْرِضُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرًا. If you distort or disregard the testimony, Allah is indeed well aware of what you do. In our last session, we discussed the meaning of كُونُوا قَوَّامِينَ بِالْقِسْطِ and also touched upon the meaning of شُهَدَاءَ لِلَّهِ, providing testimony for the sake of Allah, be witnesses for the sake of Allah. And this means when you provide testimony, you should not consider anything else. In fact, this is an application, as Allama Tabatabai Rahmatullah alayhi says, this is an application of Kunu Qawwamina bil Qist. If you want to be maintainer of justice, you have to provide testimony, you have to witness for the sake of Allah. So it's a specific application of the maintainers of justice. You should not consider your personal benefit, your family interest, or any other consideration when you provide testimony. When it says shuhada lillah, because Allah is the source and the protector of all good, all justice. Whatever human conscience approves to be good, then when you provide testimony for Allah, of course, it is the main requirement of justice. وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ أَوْ أَقْرَبِينَ. Okay, first let's see what it says. Even if it should be against yourselves. وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ. Now, this may mean two things. According to Tabari, he has mentioned this statement and have elaborated on it. He says that it either means you have to testify even if you incur some loss, even if directly or indirectly gives you some loss, or you incur some damage because of providing testimony according to haqq. Or the other meaning that he says is that you have, of course, these two meanings are not contradictory. Both of them may have been intended by the verse, admitting the right of others and one's own mistake. And so this actually brings it out of the restriction of court or just in rulings and arbitration. Whenever you speak, and then there is a contention, there's a dispute. In that dispute, you have to say what is haqq. You have to tell the truth, even if it is against yourself, even if you have to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, things like that. وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ. أو الوالدين والأقربين, or if it is against you, your parents and near relatives. Now, why parents and near relatives are mentioned here? Because, of course, these are the most dear ones to a person. A person may accept to incur financial loss, but they may not be willing to bring damage to the family, the parents, the children, although it may be haq. So here, Razi mentions something very interesting. He says that this command implicitly acknowledges that one would naturally give a greater weight to the interests of oneself and those closest to them. This is in the nature of human being. This is an instinct. However, religion has come to stop such desires, to stop us from deviating from haqq based on such affiliations, some such feelings. The whole point of religious practice and spiritual growth is to make us transcend above these basic instincts. Although these basic instincts are very good, however, when it is right of others, when it is the dichotomy between haq and batil, right and wrong, then we have to opt for haq, even if it's against our instinctive inclination towards our family. I mentioned this before, the verses in Surah Al-Ma'arij. إن الإنسان خلق هلوعا. Man is created to look after his self-interest. This is the meaning of haluk, to look after his self-interest. However, this should not urge him to deviate from haqq, to intrude into the rights of others, to deviate from justice. And that's why it says, Innal insan khulaqa halu'a. Man is created like this. إِذَا مَسَّهُ الشَّرُّ جَزُوءً وَإِذَا مَسَّهُ الْخَيْرُ مَنُوءً. Anxious when an ill befalls him, and grudging when good comes his way. إِلَّا الْمُصَلِّينَ. Except the prayerful. So the prayerful can fight this instinct if it goes against haqq. The instinct is very good. It's for our self-interest. It's for us to be able to continue living on earth. However, there's the danger of overdoing it. Everything is, for example, eating. Eating is very good. It's for our sustenance, for us to continue living. But if we overdo it, if we eat more than we need, then we have damaged our own body system. And in social relations as well, this is true. So although man is created to look after his self-interest, but should not be jazu, should not be manu, and this can be prevented by religious practice. إِلَّا الْمُسَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ دَائِمُونَ. Those who are continuous in their practice of prayer. وَالَّذِينَ فِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. And those in whose property, in whose belongings there is a right for the deprived and for the one who asks them some good. And of course the verses continue mentioning many things. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ بِشَهَادَاتِهِمْ قَائِمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ يُصَدِّقُونَ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ. Those who affirm the coming of the Day of Judgment. Anyhow, so it was a very good consideration by Razi, saying that this is instinctive. However, if it wants to go towards batil, religion should stop it. Religious commitment should stop it. And then it says, أَن يَكُونَ غَنِيًّا أَوْ فَقِيرًا, the one against or for whom you want to provide testimony, whether relatives, parents, or anyone else. أَن يَكُونَ غَنِيًّا أَوْ فَقِيرًا فَاللَّهُ أَوْلَى بِهِمَا. Whether it be someone rich or poor, you provide right testimony, for Allah has a greater right over them. Now, what does this mean? غَنِيًّا أَوْ فَقِيرًا فَاللَّهُ أَوْلَى بِهِمَا. It means that sometimes we tend to, out of benevolence, out of goodwill, we want to protect someone poor. And therefore, in our testimony, we try to take side with the poor person, and bring what is not right against the rich person. أن يكن فقيرا غنيا أو فقيرا فالله أولى بهما. Do not provide testimony against a rich person in favor of a poor, or against a poor person in favor of a rich person. Here in Tafsir of Surah, it explains it very concisely and very nicely. Do not refrain from providing testimony against a rich person, against a poor person in favor of rich person, because you say that, okay, this rich person is needless of anything which comes out of the result of this quarrel, and I testify for the poor. Or because you say that this is a poor person, he cannot defend, he cannot do anything, so I provide testimony for the rich person to get some benefit at least, or because he has a status, he has something important in some important position in the society. Do not consider any of these things. Antaprasi says, if one side of a dispute is rich and the other poor, do not side with the rich against the poor for any favor, nor take the side of the poor against the rich as a means to help out on to help out the one who has weak connections and inadequate means. So, in other words, do not be tempted to conceal or distort the truth, regardless of the status of financial position of one of the litigants. Because why? فَاللَّهُ أَوْلَى بِهِمَا. أَن يَكُنْ فَقِيرًا أَوْ غَنِيًّا فَاللَّهُ أَوْلَى بِهِمَا. Allah has a greater right over them. You are not the one to protect anyone by deviating from what is right, by deviating from justice. If the poor person deserves to be punished or deserves to lose their testimony, the designation, then that's not your job to decide that I don't want them to lose. Allah is their sustainer. Allah is their Lord. فَاللَّهُ أَوْلَى بِهِمَا. So do not try to patronize someone out of benevolence, out of kindness, or anything like that. Allah is kinder than you. Allah is more benevolent than you. You do what is right, justice. So no matter whether one is rich or poor, they have a master who has taken care of them so far and will continue to take care of them. God knows best what is in the interest of the poor or the rich. You should not patronize them. One interesting story in the Quran may be a reference to this injunction, to this overall ruling. أن يكن فقيرا أو غنيا فالله أولى بهما. Rich or poor, Allah is their sustainer. Allah has more right over them than you. You don't need to try to protect any one of them by deviating from justice. In the story of the test of Dawood alayhi salam, Nabi Dawood alayhi salam in Surah Sad, you know what different commentators have mentioned, different narrations have said. Two litigants came to him. They just climbed the wall, came to the palace, sat in front of him, and we know that they were not real litigants. It was just a test. They were angels in form of people coming to him. And one of them said, إن هذا أخ له 99 نعجة ولي نعجة واحدة فقال أكفلنيها. One of them said, this is my brother, whether brother in religion or brother in biological brother. He has 99 sheep and I have only one. And she is forcing me to give that one to him. And Dawood, without listening to the argument of the rich person, because he was in favor of the poor, because he was a very benevolent person, allowed to teach him something. قال لقد ظلمك بسؤال نعجتك إلى نعجه. He has wronged you by asking you to give him your sheep as well. And then immediately realized that this was not a true litigation. This was something that Allah wanted to teach him. Tread the path of justice, and that's all. فَظَنَّ دَاوُودُ أَنَّمَا فَتَنَّاهُ فَاسْتَغْفَرَ رَبَّهُ فَخَرَّ رَاكِعًا فَأَنَابَ. Immediately he realized this was a test, and he realized that he had just deviated from justice by not listening to the rich person because of his desire towards the inclination towards the poor. And then Allah says, Ya Dawood, if we read any other story which is mentioned by storytellers, as you know, the story of these two litigants that they were actually trying to tell him that you have done something similar. These stories should not be listened to because the context doesn't accept it. ظَنَّ دَاوُودُ أَنَّمَا فَتَنَّاهُ فَاسْتَغْفَرَ رَبَّهُ فَخَرَّ رَاكِعًا وَأَنَابَ. Then Allah says, Ya Dawood, إِنَّا جَعَلْنَاكَ خَلِيفَةً فِي الْأَرْضِ. O Dawood, we have made you a viceroy on the earth. You talk on my behalf. تحكم بين الناس بالحق. When you rule according to haq. ولا تتبع الهوى. Do not follow desire. What desire Dawood wanted to follow? To take property of others, to support someone rich against poor? No. It was this inclination towards the poor. And that is what is actually highlighted here. أن يكن غنيا أو فقيرا فالله أولى بهما. Allah is more caring for them than you are. فلا تتبعوا الهوى أن تعدلوا. And here there's something omitted. فلا تتبعوا الهوى ألا تعدلوا. This is quite common in Arabic literature. That's do not follow desire lest you be unfair by following desire. And desires, inclinations may be for many different things. for benefit, for gaining support of someone, for benevolence, for taking the side of poor, against justice, all these. So, فَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا الْهَوَىٰ أَن تَعْدِلُوا. Do not follow desires, lest you be unfair, lest you deviate from the course of justice. This statement shows that the main cause of injustice is following desire, whether worldly temptation, whether something which we have in our heart as a conviction, and I do not want see that conviction violated in this by others or anything like that. All unwarranted inclinations, whether in form of self-interest, tribalism, benevolence towards the poor, lenience towards the rich, all these are branches of desire that should not be considered in providing testimony. Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam has a very beautiful statement in Nahj al-Balagha about a God-wary person, a person who's Ahl al-Taqwa, which is very much related to this context. He says, قَدْ أَلْزَمَ نَفْسَهُ الْعَدْلَ فَكَانَ أَوَّلُ عَدْلِهِ نَفْيَ الْهَوَىٰ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. He has taken justice upon himself. He has made himself to always be on the side of justice. And the first step, his first step towards justice was to deny himself desires. Desires are what takes us away from justice. Desire is not something bad. However, when it is it becomes to conflict with justice, then of course we have to put desires away. يا داود إنا جعلناك خليفة في الأرض فاحكم بين الناس بالعدل فلا تتبع الهوى. Rule according to justice and do not follow desires and inclination. Desires, it may be benevolent desires. Put it aside. وإن تلووا أو تعرضوا فإن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا. After mentioning all these, now it says, if you twist the testimony, or if you refrain from providing a testimony that you can provide for any reason, because you don't want to provide the testimony against someone who's anything like that. If you twist or refrain, disregard, then Allah is indeed well aware of what you do. Now, talqu literally means twisting. It may either mean twisting the truth or twisting the tongue in a way that the truth is lost. This has been mentioned in other verses of the Quran as well. يَلْبُونَ أَلْسَنَتَهُمْ لِتَحْسَبُوهُ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ. They twist their tongues in a way so that you think what they say is from the book. وَمَا هُوَ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ. While it's not from the book. It's twisted. So, وَأَنْ تَلْوُوا means if you twist the truth, or if you twist your tongue in a way that the truth is lost, or in تُعْرِضُوا, turn away from testimony, disregard it. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرًا. In Majma' al-Bayan, he reports something from Imam al-Baghdadi alayhi salam. He says, إِن تَلْوُوا أي تُبَدِّلُ الشَّهَادَةَ. Change the testimony. Yeah. Twist. تُعْرِضُوا أي تَكْتُمُوهَا. Conceal it. Do not provide it. So وَإِن تَلْوُوا أَوْ تُعْرِضُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرًا. What does this mean? Allah is aware of what you do. You may be able to get away with an unfair statement in this world and gain some benefit for yourself or your kin or whoever. But you can never hide your dishonest testimony, dishonest behavior from God's omniscience. So it's more like a text. إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرًا. Let me finish by a hadith from Kitab al-Khisal of Shaykh Saduq Rahmatullah alayhi from Muhammad ibn Muslim and Abi Abdullah alayhi salam from Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, who said, ثلاثة هم أقرب الخلق إلى الله يوم القيامة حتى يفرغ الناس من الحساب. Three groups shall be the closest of people to God on the day of resurrection until everyone completes their reckoning. It means Allah brings them close to Himself until the reckoning of people is finished. رجل لم تدعه قدرته في حال غضبه إلى أن يحيف على من تحته. A man whose power does not lead him to treat the subordinates unfairly at the time of anger, and this is the time when people become unfair. Usually it's at the time of anger when people discard all their considerations. So a person whose power does not lead him to treat these subordinates to unfairly at the time of anger. The second one, وَرَجُلٌ مَشَى بَيْنَ اثْنَيْنِ فَلَمْ يَمِلْ مع أحدهما على الآخر بشعيرة or بشعرة. Both are correct. One who is set as an arbiter between two individuals and does not incline towards any of them by the weight of a hair or بشعيرة. ورجل قال الحق فيما له وعليه. Whether things are against him or in favor of him, he tells the truth. There's no difference between the two. The following verse, of course, we don't have to go into details, but is somehow related to this. If you are a believer, listen to what I have said. يا أيها الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله. O you who have believed, who you have faith, have faith in Allah. This is one of the verses which has been discussed very much by the commentators. What does it mean? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. O you who have believed, believe. And this is exactly what comes back to the concepts that we mentioned in this verse. If you want to be a real believer, then these are the requirements for a real believer. And يا أيها الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله والكتاب الذي نزل على رسوله, and the book that he has sent down to his apostle. والكتاب الذي أنزل من قبل, and the book which was revealed before. In all books, as you remember in a previous verse, we said, we revealed to you and to those who were given book before you, and ittaqullah, have fear of God, have taqwa. And these are the examples, applications of taqwa. Inshallah, we will discuss this verse in our next session. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.